Well, this morning we're going to talk about less ego. I wanted to say ego less, then I realized that that was really like a goal that was, we'd really be stretching for that goal. And the text I sent out said undistracted. And so this is really what we're going to talk about today, is that the more we're able to release the ego, the more undistracted we become in our mission and purpose. So this is, we'll have a few, and of course this whole series has been on relationships, and this is the 6th installment in that series of 12. If you look for a source material on this, of course we're coming out of the 12 traditions of NA, or of the of the recovery programs, and we're on this would be on tradition 6. But more than that, I mean, these are just we understand universal principles. We find them repeated in the Bible. We find them repeated in Course in Miracles. Really, all these principles, we find them in all of the spiritual literature throughout the ages. So we'll see if we can't just lessen that ego just a little bit at a time. We keep moving in that direction, and what we're promised is we change our perception a little bit at a time, and after a while, we don't know how long, but after a while we find ourselves at the foot of the bridge where God takes that last step and gathers us up. So, okay, well, first, let's get quiet. We'll do this meditation. I'm just going to relax into that quiet space. Focusing on the breath. Just noticing how it works. As we breathe in, we are filled. And as we breathe out, we just naturally relax. Say to yourself, I am eternal spirit. I am eternal spirit. Just consider that idea. We are eternal. We are alive with the life of God. We live and move and have our being in God. The kingdom of heaven is our home. All fear of death fades away right now, in this moment, as we realize our eternity. We are spirit. We are not our bodies. We are not our emotions. sometimes we mistake emotions for identity. But remember what the Buddha says, that thus any feeling whatsoever, past, future, or present, internal or external, latent or subtle, common or sublime, far or near, every feeling is to be seen as it actually is with right understanding. This is not mine. This feeling is not mine. This is not myself. This is not what I am. We are not our emotions. Our emotions are biological. They are part of physical evolution. They are reactions to our thoughts, which are generated from our beliefs. The body has reacted to the ego's thinking, and then we feel as if these emotions are us. Occasionally, we may take action or refrain from taking action, totally from this misidentification. Our practice offers us a way out of this cycle. We connect. We reconnect with spirit, our true self. The beliefs about this life are made whole. Then thinking is changed. Emotions evolve into higher and higher states of mind. And we are empowered to take right action, whatever that may be. So today, in our practice, we focus on the presence of spirit, releasing all else. We say amen and amen. So the tradition actually says, it says an NA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the NA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, or prestige divert us from our primary purpose. And so we can think about it in a broader sense, meaning we think about it how this applies to us, to say, okay, I really want to not get all wrapped up in all kinds of stuff that has nothing to do with my purpose. So I'm going to make a decision that I'm not going to lend myself to other things that do not line up with my own purpose. I am and here's what it says, these are the reasons. It says, lest money, property, or prestige divert us from our primary purpose. Now, so what we're talking about here is actually the ego's issues. And this is what the meditation was saying, and we hear from a number of different sources in this particular meditation, most notably the quote from the Buddha saying, examine your feelings and realize that they aren't you. That your emotions, you are not your emotions. You are not your emotions. That's not to say that your emotions may not be pleasant from time to time, but it's just not your identity. It's just not who you are. You can experience them. You can even enjoy them. But the point is, don't identify with them. Don't feel like this is who you are. Because this emotional roller coaster, this up and down, if we decide that that's who we are, then that's the ride we're going to keep on taking. And rather, we want to get to the point of discipline where we can kind of stand back just a little bit and observe the emotions and be kind of detached from them. Just observing what's happening without judgment. Just observing what is occurring. To realize, and so all of these things, not our emotions, all of the things that are attached to the ego, really not us. Now the problem with this thought system, when we start to consider this thought system that we are only spirit, and that this individual identity that the ego has created is not us, is that it causes fear to rise up in us. We believe that if I'm not this personality, who am I? And why would I want to be on a spiritual path whose express goal is to erase this, what I believe is my individual existence? And the ego uses this, of course. It says, well, that's who you are. I mean, the ego says, if you are successful in this path that you're on, if you get to the destination that you are looking for, that equates as death to the ego. The ego says, you're killing yourself. You're destroying the identity of who you are. But what's really going on is our true identity as spirit is a much higher consciousness. So what the ego is continually clamoring about, most of the time it will not even put anything on. And another thing I want to say is that I don't want to act like the ego is an alien invader. Okay? We made it. We created it. So it's really our own invention. So it's not something that came in. It's not like the devil has taken us over and possessed us, although sometimes it might seem that way. But the ego is trying to defend itself, and it will not even directly defend itself until it starts to be uncovered. In other words, what I'm saying is, it won't just directly give those conscious thoughts to us that, oh, don't release your personality because then I'll be dead. It doesn't do that. It does it it goes about this in much subtler ways until it's backed into a corner. And then that fear comes across like, yes, this really is, if you release me, you release yourself. But if we stop identifying, if we move from identification with the body to identification with spirit, this fear will get less and less. And the fact of the matter is, we are actually making a trade. What we're trying to do here is to release the small self in favor of the larger self. Now, what the ego thinks of as death and that we disappear is really moving from one state of consciousness to another. The state of consciousness of being alone, isolated, but unique, which the ego is saying, that's kind of cool. But this body that is really just a confinement of our spirit, that we are all by ourselves. We're moving from this consciousness of lack, consciousness of fear, of death, disease, the threat of other people may do something to us, the idea that we're going to, all of these, what we might call self-centered ideas. This is our belief system that we're going to trade in for unlimited consciousness. In other words, we're going to take self-centeredness and trade it for God-centeredness. We're going to take self-consciousness and trade it for God-consciousness. So we're not losing anything here. This trade is like a very, it's unbalanced in the extreme. We're going to gain much more than what we, and really what we're promised actually in the Course in Miracles is that we actually lose nothing. So the ego, though, it sees these three things that are laid out in this tradition as very important: money, property, and prestige. Now, there is nothing wrong with money. It is only what I think about money that gets me in trouble. It's only how I feel about money, what I believe about money that gets me in trouble. Money is just a symbol. Money is just a symbol for the good, as we say every Sunday, the good that flows to us continually. Money is a symbol for life, and it can be very helpful to us in this world, but it cannot be the focus. If it's the focus, then no matter what, if we haven't discovered it yet, we really never feel like we have enough. If we can go back and consider a time when we wish we had a certain amount and then everything would be good, and then we got that amount and then everything wasn't good. I remember when Debbie became a Buddhist, they told her that when she started chanting, they told her, we want to teach you that this chanting really works. And all the chant is really is a focused prayer. And so they said to her, if you want to chant for some kind of some kind of material thing, go ahead and do that. And she said, well, we really need about $5,000. And they told her, they said, chant for $5,000 then. And she did, and $5,000 came. It came through a way where you would think, we didn't know about it. It came through a natural way, but $5,000 showed up. She said, I've been chanting for $5,000. Well, the reason that they told her to do that wasn't so that she would continue to chant for money, but that she would see that it was the chanting and the focus that actually caused the thing to happen, right? Well, this is what Jesus says in the Lord's Prayer about leave us not in temptation. These are the kinds of things we discover in the power of prayer and meditation, is that many things can be done, many things can be accomplished through them, because as we picture things in our mind, they come to pass in the world in one form or another. Maybe not exactly how we pictured them, but that means then that all of the negative things that we're picturing in our mind too, we're trying to create that. We're lucky that all the negative things that we picture in our mind don't actually happen. Anyway, this tradition tells us that the focus on these things is the problem, because then they become the goal, they become the mission, they become the purpose. And when they are not enough. They are never satisfying. So the next thing on here is prestige, or property. I'm sorry, property. So property is good. It's good to own your home in this world. It's good. It's good to own property in this world. Unless we're continually worried about losing it. Unless we are looking at our property and saying, it's not as nice as the guy's property across the street and we wish we had his. Property is fine and good, and it has a purpose for us in this world, but it can't be the focus. And then finally it says prestige, and I'll say the most important. Prestige, look at it, when we are of good service, when we are helpful to people, when we are working in our communities, and being helpful in the circle of friends, in the circle of our acquaintances, we gain the prestige of goodwill. There is nothing wrong with that. But there is something wrong with us wanting the prestige of being right. I mean, when I say wrong, I mean counterproductive. I mean a distraction. The prestige of being right means that as I present myself and my theories and all of my ideas, my opinions in my various activities throughout the day. I want to be right. And wanting to be right is one of the main problems that I have in the world. It makes me believe that when I'm right and you have a different opinion than me, or you act differently than I think you should be acting, then that gives me justification to hold a resentment against you, which makes me suffer. And sometimes it is just so delicious to know that you are right and the other person is wrong, and to stand on that rightness at the expense of the relationship. But in reality, we are spirit. We are not bodies. We actually don't even need any property. We don't need any money. We don't need any prestige. Because here, in true humility, this humility, just think about this, the concept of humility. It really means knowing who we are and not having to act like something else. So if we know we're spirit, if we know we are child of God, child of creation, child of the universe, however you want to say it, why would we think we need to act like something else? I mean, actually, how could you get any better than that? If we know that at our core we are pure and loving spirit, why would we put on airs? Why would we put on masks? Why would we have to act like anything else? So, if we know we are spirit, and to continue to